Good afternoon. Yeah, okay. That's the spirit that I like to see in Baltimore. My name is Kurt Anderson. I am chairman of the Baltimore City Delegation. And today is a subcommittee hearing on the delegation subcommittee on criminal justice. And we're dealing with a broad area of police practices. We've made every attempt to let many people or everybody in the public know that this hearing was being held today. We did press releases to major TV and radio stations, as well as the Maryland Register, and of course, social media, Facebook, Twitter. That's as far as we go on social media. I'd like to thank all of you who have taken your time out today on a Saturday afternoon to come down and participate in what we think is an extremely important issue. We hope to hear from everybody in this room. There's no one person that's any more important to us than any other person, because your opinions are valuable to us. To that end, Delegate Carter will be explaining the question and answer period, because she's the chair of the subcommittee. But before we get to that, I'd like to introduce some of the members of our esteemed panel. All the way to my right is the delegate from the Baltimore City Delegate Barbara Robinson. She's on the Appropriations Committee. Then our Senator from South Baltimore, I have to say all of South Baltimore, Senator Bill Ferguson. And Delegate Frank Conaway Jr. is across the street getting some of his testimony printed. He'll be in a second. And I'd also like to recognize some of the elected officials who are here today. Who are here today. First, from the Baltimore City Council, probably one of the longest-serving members of the City Council, not in age, obviously, but Delegate Ricky Spector. Can we give a little hand for Ricky Spector? And up until this election, and I don't know if you all do this, I consider myself the best-looking legislator in Annapolis. We have a new fellow from District 20, and you can judge for yourself if you think you can take my crown. Delegate Will Smith from District 20, Prince George's County. Will, stand up in the back of the room.
Oh, Will's right here.
You have to get used to being embarrassed when you're in elected office, okay? And two of the people that I'd like to mention that are here, the Attorney General for the Attorney General-elect for the state of Maryland indicated an interest in being here, but he had other things he had to get to on this Saturday. So Terrell Boston Smith is here on behalf of the Attorney General-elect, Brian Frost. Terrell? And I wanted to introduce two other people who I think are important in this proceeding as well, who are either, I think they're going to testify or at least submit some extremely important information. From the ACLU, a woman with whom we've worked as a delegation in Annapolis for many years now, Sarah Love. And also from the University of Maryland School of Law, she attended the last workshop, by the way, of the Mayor's Work Group on body cameras, Professor Lee Maddox. And arriving, as I mentioned, from the 40th District, Delegate Frank Conaway Jr. At this time, it's my pleasure to turn it over to my esteemed colleague. She and I have been in the legislature together for the last 12 years. She is one of the most outspoken legislators, not only on this issue, but several issues. And I think that her hard work and her intelligence have made people start to listen to those of us who have heretofore had our voices unheard. And I'm proud to say that Jill Carter is the chairman of the Subcommittee on Criminal Justice. So I turn the meeting over now to Delegate Jill Carter.
Thank you. I so appreciate begin by saying that this is the first step in the road to Annapolis, January 2015. This is a public hearing that we don't often do here, but it is not the first time. We did one last week, and almost about 8 years ago, we actually did a different one down at the War Memorial Building on the issue of uncharged arrests. Some, like myself, call them illegal arrests. And that is one instant where we saw that we had a victory because we got legislation, well, not a whole victory, but we were able to parlay that momentum into legislation in Annapolis to attempt to address that issue. But I want to say that this is the way that the structure is going to be today. That everyone that will make a statement or come up to testify will have 3 minutes. And that we'll try to stick as close to that as possible. We understand that it takes more time than just that to speak on these issues. But again, this is the first step, it's not the last step. We will, at the end of the panels, take questions from the audience. At the end of the first 3 panels, and I'll explain why. The first panel, I believe, will be utilized to frame the issues. Because we're looking toward legislation, and each issue, there's a legislative component to it, and I'll call a panel, not because they're more important than anyone else in the room, but either they have expertise on those issues, or we know that they will be the advocates or the leaders in Annapolis to help champion those causes and work with all of you and work with us to get that done. The second panel, I'm going to ask if you are a family member of, or if you are a victim of a negative encounter from everywhere from police brutality or excessive force of the police, or if you have had a personal experience that needs to be addressed here to come up. And it may not be everyone, but it will be the ones that are on the sign-up sheet first. Then the third panel, we will hear from law enforcement. And then after that, it's fair game. Everyone that's still here can testify, but before that, we're going to take questions from the audience of anyone in the panel. When you have a question to submit, you can stand up at the microphone and ask a question. We're going to try to limit the questions to 1 minute and the responses to 2 minutes. We are going to attempt to hear from you. So if there's just a burning question that you are concerned won't get asked, perhaps you could submit it to Mara Douglas or Jamel Brown, who should be around, to have us ask it to make sure that it gets addressed. I also just want to say thank you to Delegate Kurt Anderson, who is the chair of our delegation that is responsible for our ability to be able to do this today, and Kamara Douglas and Jamela Brown, our staff. Jamela Brown is my legislative aide, and Kamara Douglas is the chief of staff for the Baltimore delegation. They're important to all of you because as you want dates and scheduling and meetings and information between now and January and even through the session, those are the points of contact that you go to. Also, if you have questions or testimony that you want to submit, please do so through them, and they will sort it out to all of us. I have a written statement that I prepared because in the interest of time, I didn't want to take too much time. But I will just briefly say that today we're here to look at policing practices as a whole. We are not here to talk about only one piece of legislation or one aspect of it, because we believe that it's time to have a dialogue about comprehensive change in the way that we deal with policing. And so, that being said, I want to get started with our first panel. And there is a reason, a method to the madness for why these people are being called first, because I believe, again, they will properly frame the issues for all of us today. So, with that being said, I'm going to call Sergeant Lou Hobson, Attorney A. Dwight Pettit, Dr. Marvin Doc Cheatham. One I don't see her on the list, Sarah Love, from the ACLU. And I think that we can have 6 at a time, so 3 on each side. So let's go. Attorney Russell Levernon. Professor Ted Grant. And if he's still here, because I know I saw him earlier, Stephen Tabor. I don't see him on the sign-up sheet either. Is he in the house? Mr. Chamberlain comes in, we'll, okay, I'm sorry, Sona Kumar from the ACLU is not, our second panel would be victims who have personal stories or family members of victims that have suffered from police brutality or excessive force or even an extrajudicial killing. So I know that I have some members I recognize from the West family, and if possible, I hope that if we could, again, stick to the time limit and not only in sharing your personal story, but suggest what specific solution that you offer as we move toward legislative change. So to Wanda Jones, can you come up to the next panel? Who else do we have in here? Do we have any other victims or family members that are here that wish to testify? Yes. Okay, your time is now. We're going victims, family members of victims, specifically to tell your story and what you suggest in terms of legislative change, and hopefully do that in 3 minutes time apiece. Thank you. Ms. Jones.
Thank you guys for having this event. God bless you, because it's really totally needed. So I just want to thank you and your expertise panelists that took the time to hear us today. But basically, I want to make it quick because I have 3 minutes. But my brother Tyrone West was brutally murdered on July 18, 2013. And to this day, we still don't have my brother's full autopsy report. Nothing has been transparent. He was brutally murdered by 11 to up to 15 police officers on one unarmed man. Brutally murdered. Called the N-word on numerous times. His human rights. He was pulled out the car by his dreadlocks. It was just awful. Nobody family deserves to be brutally murdered. And my thing is for the change, and I agree totally with Russell Neverdome when he talked about the officers' Bill of Rights. And I think that's very important, because why should they have 10 days to get together, to stick away, to basically make up lies and then come together? We had a whole team of police officers that brutally murdered one unarmed man. They had 10 days, and in my brother's case, it seemed like 154, and it still seemed like 491 days to this day. Nothing. It's ridiculous. Nobody family deserves to go through what my family has been enduring over this last past year and a half. It's horrible. We can't sleep at night. It's terrible. And we do what we do to save lives in the community. Because it's just not about Tyrone West. It shouldn't have never been a Tyrone West, an Anthony Anderson, an Abdul Salam. Nobody deserves to be brutally beat down, brutally murdered, brutally killed. And I think, it's very important what y'all doing. And I feel as though I felt good when I was able to testify in the Chris Brown legislation piece, because that was important, because we had a guy sitting on my brother's back, David Lewis from Morgan, while my brother took his last breath, and nobody there knew how to use the defibrillator. Ridiculous. When is it going to stop? When is enough's enough? Thank you.
My name is Diane Butler, and I'm Tyrone West's mother in every sense of the word mother. That was my sister's child. She passed away years ago, and I took the responsibility to take care of her children. My question is for police. When was the beating supposed to stop? My son was on the ground screaming for the beating to stop. Was the beating supposed to continue till he was no longer breathing, no longer moving? My son was dead, and your police officer still was kicking him in the back of his head, and he was cuffed. It was a supervisor that was supposed to come and I guess to see what was going on and hopefully put a stop to this brutal beating. He did not. He participated. My son was hit with haymakers, as eyewitnesses told us. Why is it a supervisor? He should be fired. He was supposed to stop this brutal beating. When a man is down, pleading for you to stop the beating, what type of animals did not stop the beating till my son was dead? This is the question that haunts me, and it's going to haunt me till I die. Because all I hear is my son screaming to stop this beating. Those animals should have been terminated.
family is saying. We need legislation so that situations like this don't happen again and again and again, and that's what we're seeing. And we're not seeing any effort upon the city to actually initiate any type of legislation, to actually pass. A lot of it is just for show, and we need action. We've had enough show. We have people here in this room right now with documentation of how to make this happen. There are people with great minds right now in this room who have ideas of how this can happen. There's a forum right now going around with plenty of ideas of what we can actually do to change this. There are plenty of groups right now in this room of what we can actually do to change this, and I'm not sure what type of venue we can have where everyone can sit down and actually write their ideas out, because we don't want any small groups to be left out or any small or single people to be left out just because they're not someone who's always in the public eyesight. We want everyone's ideas to be included.
Thank you, Ms. Jones and Ms. Butler and Ms. Butler. I think I speak for all of us when I say that we're sorry for your pain, and the reason that we are here, because there was a reference to city elected officials. We are state legislators, and many of the things that you speak about are state legislation, such as the Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights. And then the other issue was posed earlier, and it's still an issue that some of it is not legislation, some of it is prosecution, and it comes into the criminal investigation. And so we have heard you, and I want to make it clear that the next panel is going to be the law enforcement officials that are here, and I'm sure that in the course of their discussion, they will address your concerns. We'll see that they do. So thank you very much for coming, and thank you for your
Thanks
participation.
again. Can I ask one question? I'll make it real quick. And I just want to know, are they trained to tase, pepper spray a man and throw them face down on the ground where they can't breathe? Because that's how my brother was. Face down on the ground and couldn't breathe. And then a 200-pound man sat on his back, pressing his knee in his back. Are they trained like that? That's my question. They need to stop killing us.
Thank you. Sure. Okay, so this, you all came and slipped in when I was looking to the left. Is everybody here on the sign-in sheet? Because I want to make sure I check you off. On this panel here. Your name?
You asked
Who
for
wanted
more.
to from the public, that you're victims?
Yep.
Or family of the victims? Okay. Thank you. Please just state your name and I'll check you off. And again, you have 3 minutes for the presentation, and there will be other opportunities to ask questions later, assuming we can get through these panels. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Irvin. I'm one of the victims of Officer Mark Lunsford. What you're hearing, and I understand we only have 3 minutes, unfortunately, 60 days before a session. I think these kind of meetings need to happen quarterly throughout the year so that we don't have just to rush everything in 3 minutes. I'm sure there's a lot of experiences in the audience. Mark Lunsford is a detective in Baltimore City who was eventually arrested by the FBI, and he was a Baltimore City detective attached to the DEA. What he was doing was robbing people under the auspices of executing a warrant. Warrants that he was able to get without evidence, without testimony. My particular case, you said to connect with panelists. I spoke to Mr. Pettit, and I understand that his hands were tied because it was my word against an officer's. Thanks to this officer, I don't have a relationship with my 15-year-old son to this day because he thinks I wasn't around because I didn't want to be there. He didn't understand that I was in jail because of this officer who, after the fact, after I contacted Internal Affairs, after I contacted the Justice Department, he was eventually arrested later on, and I heard his name on the radio, arrested for the very things that I said he was doing. He was found at his Carroll County home with over $40,000 in cash in his home. So at what point, as the legislature, not our city officials, do we examine the laws for granting warrants to these officers? The warrant that was left at my house had no signature on it by no judge. There was no inventory list left, so everything that he took from my house, the city was able to keep and sell. At what point, as the legislature, you're members of this community, you know your constituents, you should know of these problems before 60 days out before a session. We should be addressing these things actively. You don't need to wait for the citizens for some things. Some things you should know of and go ahead and attack them. We want activist judges. I want activist legislators. Thank you.
I'm not sure if you were here at the outset, but we stated earlier that this is the beginning of a path toward working toward legislative changes in Annapolis, and this is the first public meeting that we've had on this, but we expect people to work together and form coalitions from today to continue to dialogue and continue to craft various pieces of legislation. So that's what our plan is.
My name is Dwayne Davis. Everybody knows me in Baltimore as Shorty. I'm a community activist. I'm a prisoners' rights advocate. I'm a homeless advocate. And my position was, I was making I'm a freelance independent filmmaker. I was making a movie about the Maryland politics, the judges, the lawyers, and the prison industry. Randallstown Citizens to Change. All right, I've been doing this since 2006. And it's about the murder and the death of our kids here in Baltimore, Chicago, New York, and Philadelphia. All right, long story short, on October the 15th, 2010, after Governor O'Malley and Bob Ervin had their debate at WJZ, Baltimore City sent 12 Baltimore City police officers and 7 state troopers in my house without a search warrant. They came at 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 5 o'clock. No warrant and no reason to come in my house. They accused me of threatening Governor O'Malley with no evidence of that threat. Now, I called the Department of Justice, and I called the Baltimore City Police Department Internal Affairs Division. Case number 20101440, and they did nothing. Currently, I got paperwork with Dwight Pettit at his office asking him to represent me on this case. Most of y'all don't know me, but I'm the guy that put them toilets in front of the Towson Courthouse and the different places all over Baltimore City, and it was part of my movie and my documentary. To this day, the state of Maryland has taken my truck, my computer, and my ability to make a living in the state. I've been unemployed and unemployable since 2008. I've been working tirelessly to have my case heard by the gentleman back here in the back named Mr. Valario. I got emails here, just like they did Kwame Kilpatrick, where I can show you where your state legislators and these issues that we are talking about, they ain't did nothing about it. They let them lock me up and leave me in jail for a crime they know I didn't commit. Doc Cheatham had 52 subpoenas that I gave him on June 30th, 2012, asking for a grand jury investigation. I'm gonna hit this 1 minute real quick. All right, long story short, if you ain't did nothing for us in the last 8 years, what you gonna do different for us now? Because I put this information in your hands. I've testified in front of your judiciary committees. This is not nothing new to y'all. So what you gonna do that's gonna be any different? I've been to your offices personally. You have this information I have here in front of you for the people. Joseph Valario has the DVD and the material, and the letter right here said that this is his letter. This is from his office. That man's sitting right there. So tell me what you gonna do for us. I need my property back. I need my life back. I need my standing in the community back. I've done nothing wrong but blow the whistle on the corruption that's going on in your administration.
Thank you. Next panel.
My name is Steve Turner. I'm a former Baltimore City police officer. Started in 1987. For 27 years, I have been blackballed. I have been a whistleblower before I knew what the term meant. I thought I would be the first generation of the family to have other police officers. I was met with, in the Northern District, with excessive racism. When I turned my car over, they would say things to me like, don't eat chicken grease on the steering wheel. I've seen other officers verbally abused, and I asked them, why are you taking this subhuman type of treatment here? And my advocacy has got me in serious trouble. I've been charged with different issues when I wouldn't take a bribe or extort, where I wouldn't beat people over the head with the nightsticks, which doesn't require all that. I also have lost a friend who was a Jewish police officer. His name was Ira Weiner. He told me that there were high levels of police corruption in the Western District. I told him to keep his mouth shut and go to the feds. They rewarded him for for his truth with being murdered. He was murdered when he responded to a call in the Western District. I went there to protect him, and he lost his life with an axe pick in his head. My situation, I lost my first wife because I couldn't find work. And 38 jobs in 1 year I've applied for, I was overqualified for, that they didn't give me. And this is going on for 27 years. I don't plan to lose my second wife, and my grandchild's in the back. I just want to say this, that the culture of racism and the culture of, it's a gang mentality, it's us and them, that's what I was told. When I had my 38th, and they took that and asked you if you wanted a block, I went for that. We received specialized training, and I just want to tell you, the specialized training was not to give you a Hostess Twinkie, it was to kill you. Specialized training to kill you, center mass. And so when you offer a gang mentality and you give them militarized weapons, you're raising a militarized militia. So as I close, I just want to say this, that my ultimate crime was telling the truth, being subpoenaed by Attorney Harold Twin to testify against my own employer. I didn't know, because I was naive, that I was kissing my career goodbye. And as I told the truth, the jury believed me when they tried to charge an innocent man with triple homicide. He couldn't be there because he was talking to me while I was trying to help another officer serve a warrant. And they tried to get me not to testify, get the witnesses not to testify. All crimes that I agree with Leo Barrow should be in jail for. Well, they put me in jail. They took away my career, and it goes even longer than the law. It goes into other cultures or other jobs, such as sales, marketing. If they can figure out the connection, they will dismiss you. So, I mean, who gives back 27 years of life?
Thank you, Pastor Frank. It's now 3:40, and so we are midway through this hearing, and it's important that we bring up the next panel, which is those representing the law enforcement officials or their representatives, and they will, again, be limited to time limitations for testimony, and then there will be an opportunity for short questions. And I stress. Also, I think I recognize another delegate-elect, Antonio Hayes, I believe slipped in. Is he back there? Yes. Welcome, Delegate Hayes. If you are a law enforcement office official or representative or representing someone from the Fraternal Order of Police or the like, this is your time to address us. Thank you. Is there someone else here? Okay. Please state your name and your position.
Good afternoon, Delegate. My name is Daryl D'Souza. I'm a colonel with the police department. I'm the chief of patrol.
Good afternoon, Delegate. Members of the community, I'm Colonel Garnell Green. I have the Office of Internal Oversight.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Captain Mark Mason. I'm assigned to our police academy.
For testimony, or were you just going to start over the questions? You've heard some of the concerns today, so I wish that each of you would take time about.
I'll start. Good evening, everyone. Within the past 2 years, the Baltimore Police Department has initiated considerable change in a vital effort to improve community relations, transparency, accountability, and professionalism. The recommendations for reform outlined in the strategic plan for improvement, the Tyrone West independent review recommendations, as well as the Karen Kruger improvement for the Internal Affairs Investigation Audit Report, are launching positive cultural and procedural changes within the agency. The men and women of the police department have worked tirelessly and selfishly to develop and apply these reforms, as well as changes recommended by internal and community assessments. Many of these recommendations have been implemented and already yielding positive results. Created in 2013, Commissioner Bass came here, he created the Professional Standards and Accountability Bureau, which I fall under the direction of Deputy Commissioner Rodriguez. This bureau has the bulk of the responsibility to reforming the disciplinary process and accountability of the organization. Internal Affairs, Office of Internal Oversight, which I oversee, as well as the Force Investigation Team, which I also oversee, Professional Development Training Academy, which is includes the second in command, is captain to my right, the Written Director's Policy, which I also oversee, and the General Accountability Office that does our inspections. Our overtime unit, all fall under the Professional Standards Accountability Bureau. To date, the following accomplishments have been done in our reforming our agency. As we talk about accountability and transparency, we have created a categorical use of force review board and a force investigation team to increase the standards, ethics, integrity, and accountability on police use of force. We have also developed a website in which the community can go on and see the investigations being conducted by the force investigation team. Also on that website, you can see our final report in which the findings are done after the board has made their recommendations. We have provided presentations to the Civilian Review Board and several district community relations council on the force investigation team. Just this week, I presented a case to the Use of Force Review Board so they can see what we do. Also, been out to 2 of our districts to the community meetings to also inform them of what the force investigation team is doing out in the community. Staff Civilian Review Board members meet with, so we have commanders who attend those meetings. I'm one of them. As the Office of Internal Oversight, and we have the Chief of Internal Affairs who also attends the Civilian Review Board meetings. And we answer their questions and get feedback from them. We have created new procedures related to category use of force and in custody deaths in response to the category use of force report. In the past,
Colonel, just briefly, your time is up, so can you wrap it up? We'll be available for questions.
absolutely. So in the past, homicide and internal affairs used to work separately when it came down to the use of force and in custody deaths. The force investigation team now has taken the role in leading those investigations. And we look to improve our transparency and coming to better findings. So in wrap up, I just want to know the community know that we are moving to reform this agency.
Thank you. Next. We'll take questions after all three are testified.
Thanks a lot. First, gentlemen, thank you for coming today. I appreciate the service that you give to Baltimore City, and I appreciate the fact that you actually came here to listen to everybody, and knowing that there would be some negativity, and hopefully we can get something positive about all this. My question, Colonel D'Souza, I know that you were head of the Northeastern District commander up there, you're chief of patrol right now, and you know that Delegate Conway last year introduced a bill regarding cameras on police officers. The mayor has put together a work group on that very issue, and I believe it's a statewide work group as well. In your opinion, I mean, I don't know if you've talked with the commissioner, I'm sorry, talk with the commissioner about it, but in your opinion, do you think that body cameras on police officers in Baltimore City who are on patrol only would help change some of the way that police officers deal with the citizens of Baltimore City?
Colonel Green has a more specific answer, but to answer your question, yes, I think it would help us.
In answer to your question, I do think it will help both the citizens and the police as well. But there's some things we have to look at before we jump to the conclusion that we definitely use body cameras. Some of the things is privacy issues. Privacy not just for the police, but also for the citizens. Should a police officer have a body camera on when they come to your home? That is a very issue that we're looking at right now. Also, the cost when it comes to Maryland Public Information
Well, I
Act.
wasn't really worried about some of these
Okay.
ancillary problems. I was specifically just wanting to know if the commander of the Baltimore City Police Department, and I know you can't speak for the commissioner, but I'm pretty sure you guys have had discussions about this. In general, is the Baltimore City Police Department leaning in favor of having cameras on police officers for that reason or for other reasons?
We are leaning towards being in favor, but as I said, there's other issues we have to look at.
Okay. Second thing, Captain, you were in charge of the academy, is that correct?
I'm the number 2. We have a civilian director.
Oh, now you're number 2. All of a sudden, when I saw you outside, you said, oh, I'm the man. You're saying number 2. I get it. Yeah, I was born at night, but not last night. My question to you is, what do we do in Baltimore City to try to ensure that more African-American males get to look? I know there's a problem with a lot of them not having totally clean records, but is there any way that the department's trying to work around getting more African-American males from Baltimore on the police force? People who grew up here, know what the city's like, and kind of share the same experience that many Baltimoreans do.
This has been a real priority with the recruitment section. We actually have an event coming up, and it's geared specifically for city residents. One of the initiatives that we've taken in the last couple of years is the cadet program. So we get individuals that come out when they're 18 years of age. We want citizens who are committed not only to the city, they're committed to the police department, and they're going to stay. This is where their career is going to be.
What about a person who, though, has a minor, let's say somebody right now who has a conviction for possession of marijuana? Is that person excluded from the police department?
By state law, yes.
Okay, so there would need to be a change in state law. In other words,
That's
you wouldn't circumnavigate that in some way to get that person in the police department.
right. That's correct. The state law gives the individual law enforcement agencies authority.
Okay, well, that's one of the reasons why you're here and we're asking these questions. Thank you.
I have a few questions, and I'll make them brief and shoot them out, and then you can answer them at the same time. The first one is, last session, we passed a bill that specifically dealt with education and training for law enforcement officers, and it was meant specifically to address this issue of extrajudicial killing, as well as excessive force and brutality. And it was, we termed it Christopher's Law after Christopher Brown, a teenager that was killed at the hand of an off-duty law enforcement officer. The FOP and pretty much the whole cadre of law enforcement representation in Annapolis opposed the legislation, and all that it did was say that we want to avoid some of the problems, so perhaps better training and education could help alleviate some of the problems down the road. The bill specifically spoke to use and level of force, life-saving, CPR, cultural diversity training, and training to handle individuals with disabilities. So the question one is, how, if at all, is that law now being enforced? And two, kind of the psychology behind resisting that type of legislation when, you know, in my view, it is a precursor to all of the other legislation that you might deem a little bit more restrictive, such as our desire to possibly now improve accountability by changing the law enforcement officer bill of rights and other things.
So what we've undertaken not only in 2014 that coincides with Christopher's Law, but we have additional plans in 2015. One of the things as far as use and level of force, we're really going to emphasize use of force that is reasonable. We're not just going to stand up in a classroom. We're actually going to put the students, both entry level and in service, through reality-based training. And we have that through our facilities at the academy, and then we have our use of force simulator out at Gunpowder Range. Next year, we plan to add up our decision-making course also, and then de-escalation techniques. So there's a big focus on that when we look at our police-involved shootings. How do we get from A, B, and C to when the shooting occurs? And we're really going to focus in on the de-escalation techniques. As far as encounters with persons with intellectual and physical disabilities, there's new state-required objectives for all entry-level trainees. We have a Train the Trainer on January 8th that the state is putting on to make sure that the training is consistent statewide. We've also increased our training and role-playing from, it was about 28 hours, and now we're up to 40 hours. And we've added actual scenarios. We have a partnership with the Behavioral Health System of Baltimore, and through a grant, they have a full-time staff member at our academy. So in addition to this, the training that they facilitate, she's been able to observe a lot of the training that we have. So the same lessons are being taught throughout the 26 weeks that we have them, not just that 1 week training. As far as life-saving techniques, we use the law enforcement emergency medical care course, and we have used that for the last couple of years. It's a 4-day class. It includes CPR. As part of our in-service training, this year we used a trauma management class, We've handed out over 1,000 tourniquets to officers that should they encounter a situation where it's needed, they know how to use it. And also, we'll be including CPR and AED certification as part of in-service next year for all officers. For cultural diversity, one of the things that we're really emphasizing is a new program called the Community Orientation Program. A lot of our officers are not from the city, and we're working with city leaders to create a program that doesn't just start, it's a one-time thing, it's more of a partnership, where they'll come in during several sessions. The first one will be a history of the city. So the trainees that we have become acclimated. We also, a part of it is that we're really focusing on, we still have more research to do, is how barriers are created or developed that cause an officer not to be engaged with the community. So those are some of the things that we're focusing on.
Thank you. When would that be implemented?
Which part?
The last part you said that you
Oh,
were
that's
developing a program?
our class 1501 starts January 23rd, and that's going to be implemented then. That's the deadline.
Thank you, and I just want to, I'm not sure if it encompasses this, but I want to stress that, that the impetus for Christopher's Law was the issue specifically based on the number of extrajudicial killings that were happening, particularly African Americans and African American men. And so I would hope that there would be a component of that that would address specifically the race issue, race and class.
Do I have one more second? Okay, so we have fair and impartial policing, which really goes to that. We're not only looking for explicit bias, but also implicit bias. We want our employees to know, and when they approach a situation, that they realize that they have biases. So we're going to have them understand what human biases are and how they manifest themselves, the impact that it causes on the community, and then we're going to teach them skills for fair and impartial policing. We're really going to dial it back. We're not just going to have an instructor stand up there. We've got specific role-playing scenarios where biases can come forward.
Thank you, and I'm going to wrap this up, maybe throw it at Robinson so we can move on, but there also is resistance, or has been in the past, to every attempt to modify the Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights. And even experts have attested to the fact that to make sure that this Bill of Rights or these protections do what they are intended to do, to protect good officers, but also to weed out the bad, that somehow this is in the way. And so, assuming that all of you are interested in protecting the integrity of the profession and weeding out the bad officers, what would be the reason for objection to these modifications to the Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights?
As we all know, the Bill of Rights is being reviewed. At this point, we cannot discuss the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights.
The website that you said that disciplinary actions and investigations are accessible by?
Yeah, so the force investigation team, we have a website, and anytime we have a category use of force, which involves a police officer shooting, in custody death, situation where officer deploys a service weapon, or a person's hospitalized, admitted to the hospital, we go out and investigate these cases. We place the actual case on the website, and at the conclusion of the investigation, we did post a summary report of that findings, the entire investigation, with the findings of the board. It's now posted on the website. And you can get to that back going to the police website and clicking on the force investigation team.
I'm sorry, the what website? What's the website?
So you go to the Baltimore Police website, and there's a link on the upper right-hand corner that says Force Investigation Team. You click on that link, and it takes you to our website, where you'll see the maps of crime in the city, as well as where the use of force were used, and also the list of our cases that we're handling. And then you can click on where the summaries are, and it pop up. You'll see the actual summary report that's signed off by command.
And is this available at the point of incident, or is it after an investigation?
So the point of incident, we immediately put the date, the complaint number, the location, and the type of force used. That's immediately put up within 24 hours. This is a Friday. We try to get it up on Monday. And then the conclusion of the investigations, we put the summary report up.
Thank you. Delegate Robinson, and then shortly we will hear questions from the audience in the same rules as before, which is please step up to the microphone. You have 1 minute to ask a question, and it must be a question for the specific panel. And you know, remember to take maybe questions from everyone but the first to get there. All right. Now, keeping in mind, there are still some people signed up to testify. This is not your testimony. This is simply if you have a question for law enforcement. Thank you.
One of the questions I wanted to ask was about the Bill of Rights, and you already addressed that. But all the training that I heard you talk about, not once have I heard anything about human trafficking. Is that not an issue? Is that not a part of your training?
Oh, no, it is. It's a state mandated objective. It gets taught at entry level, and then it's also taught at in-service training.
Would I be able to find out exactly what it is that you are being trained in? Because that's an escalating problem now. And I'd like to know what it is that you're being trained in. Would I be able to get any of that information?
Yes, ma'am.
From where?
I'll exchange emails with you, or I can get your phone number or person that represents you, and I'll be more than happy to give them that information.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Now, earlier, at the beginning of this hearing, I called on Stephen Tabley, who's a veteran of the police department, wasn't in the room at the time. I want to acknowledge the fact that he's there. I'm going to give him a minute, if he would like to briefly just testify to what his area is, his purpose for being here, his advocacy, and then we'll move on to the questions. Thank you.
My name is Stephen Tablin. I'm a retired lieutenant for Baltimore City Police Department from Homicide Squad. At the time I retired, I was Assistant Director of Education and Training and former Chief of Police in Salisbury, Maryland. In the 1970s, we had 19 police officers shot and killed. At that time, Commissioner Pomeroy gave me exclusive rights to investigate all police-type shootings. At that time, if we had a close case, we would send the case to the grand jury. I can say at the time, we did not have a 10-day rule. I'm not saying that a police officer doesn't have the right to have somebody represent him. But what I am saying is when you wait 10 days, cases get cold, memories fade away, stories get a whole lot different. So I would say that the 10-day rule is something that we should do away with. At the time, I was suspended without pay, released to my captain who were the heaviest workers. I had to report to him every morning at 11 o'clock. 3 weeks later, I was tried in criminal court. That no longer happens, but it did back in those days.
Okay, so this looks like we're getting into the heart of things now. I want to make it clear. Please state your name, ask the question of the panel, if it's for 1 minute, and we will give them an opportunity to respond for 1 minute. But if you wish to testify, this is not your opportunity to testify. This is your opportunity to ask a question of the panel. And if time allotted, you'll be able to testify at the next group after this. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Carter. My name is Brian Patterson. I'm a lawyer in Anne Arundel County. I don't practice in the criminal field. This is not a personal issue for me, but it's a very interesting public policy question. I think it was Kathleen Anderson that pointed out state law that prohibits the city of Baltimore from hiring young cadets if they have like a possession of marijuana conviction, for example. And I think the implication of the answer was that the city of Baltimore would be willing or even happy to hire these folks if the state law was changed. And I think the same principle applies to some of the other state laws we've been talking about, like the 10-day rule, and like the prohibition against civilian investigation and civilian or independent hearings in the case of police officers. So my question is, if the people of the city of Baltimore, or whether it's Salisbury or Garrett County, wanted to be able to have independent review of the law enforcement agencies that they're paying for and that are living in their community and that are protecting their community, or if they wanted to abolish the 10-day rule in their community enforcement in your view? Is that something that you think the leadership in Baltimore could support?
10-day rule in the LEO.
The 10-day rule and independent or civilian investigation, I mean, currently you're prohibited from doing these things. Supervisors are prohibited by state law. All we're talking about is changing the state law to allow it to be decided at the local level. Is that so wrong?
I don't think these officers today can testify on changes to the LEOPR. That's part of the reason why we're having today's hearing, is to see where we would like to see changes. So we don't care what, I mean, look, obviously, they want to keep it the same. We want to hear what you guys say.
And so my question is really just from a law enforcement perspective, would it help or hurt if supervisors in a police department could get a statement from an officer in less than 10 days?
You can answer that if you want.
Again, we're not trying to dance around anything here. I mean, we know that the LEOBR is under review. Us, the panel here, the captain, the two colonels, Colonel Reed and myself, we're not the ultimate policy makers in the police department. We understand the issues with the LEOBRs, but we can't come to a conclusion at this point with that. It's under review. We'd like to discuss about it more. We'd like to see things happening in the future, but we just, at this point, can't discuss it.
Next question.
I'm Kiara Butler. I'm a cousin of Tyrone West, Officer D'Souza. You were in charge of the officers of Northeast District that murdered my cousin. Could you explain why Chris Jennings was never suspended and he was also at the vigil of Tyrone West a few days after he was murdered? On your watch?
You talking about an officer?
Yes.
Corey Jennings?
Chris Jennings, and he was never suspended, and he was also at the vigil.
Yeah, I'm not sure of a Chris Jennings. I know of a Corey Jennings in the Northeast District. I'm not familiar with Chris Jennings, though. Maybe you can share that a little bit later. I'm not sure who you're referring to.
I don't know what else to say besides that's my own question.
Next question.
My name is Jerome Goodens. I'm a criminal lawyer. I've been practicing in Baltimore City for over 30 years, first 18 years at the public defender's office. But that's not important. My question to you officers, you representatives of the people, is this course in the academy that's going to be teaching these new recruits that may come from Pennsylvania, Kentucky, who is going to teach that course that endeavors to introduce these officers to our culture? And also, this force investigation team, I couldn't find the link on your website just now. I'm just learning how to use my smartphone, so that's my fault. But how many civilians, how many regular folks, how many non-police officers are on the force investigation team? Now, I got to go, because I got to go to the bathroom and I got to do some personal tour jump off.
For the community orientation.
Next question. Oh, I started. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, the list is still being put together, who's going to be doing it. There will be citizens from the community that are going to do it. If anybody's interested, Captain Argressen can see me at the end of the day.
I didn't. Next question.
Yes. In Fields versus State and Coakley versus State murder case, the officer is still working and has been promoted. Yet it was substantiated that he had theft in his file and he perjured himself in court. Do you know anything about that? And why is he still working?
Sorry, what's the officer's name?
I don't know about his name. I want to get that out.
Is it Baltimore City?
It's Coakley and Fields versus State.
I'm not familiar with that case.
I'll bet you Carrie Sneed.
Thank you. Next question.
I'm concerned. I think it's great that we're going to start fresh with the new trainees, but so far, none of them have killed anybody that anybody in this room loves or has beaten them. So my real concern, and this includes body cams, what about the officers that are repeat offenders? And what's the name of that hit squad that killed, responsible for killing Anthony Anderson? There you have it. They were responsible for the death of Anthony Anderson, murdered in front of his family for Tyrone West. They were responsible for beating Abdul's mom. That's just who I know. So I have to ask you, while training on the bottom is terrific, what are we going to do about this unit? Is brutal. They're brutal killers. What's being done about training them?
So to talk about different types of forces being used in investigations, one thing that definitely done is the conviction rate for child wars. Conviction rate for child wars is up 85% compared to last year. So we're making better improvements in the conviction rate. As far as the special enforcement section team that you're talking about, they have been reformed. They're now to wear clear identification of their police officers before they allow their not being clearly marked. So this is some of the changes being made. And then when the incident actually happens, that will come with the enforcement investigation team. We have to present to the police commissioner in 72 hours of what we found in the community on the scene, and then he'll make a determination of what the officer goes back in the street, what the officer goes to training. That's going to be done in 72 hours.
Thank you, Colonel. I'm just going to ask to speak a little, I know you're trying to do it quickly, but I believe next time a little slower and closer to the mic, because I was having trouble hearing, even I'm sure some people in the room do too. Thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Kevin Cranford, I'm the Deputy Director of Maryland NORML, which is the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. We heard earlier that marijuana seems to be the main reason why a lot of young black males aren't getting into the system itself. Also, marijuana and drug laws are the reason that cops can get into your house, get into your car, get into your pockets. So with the decriminalization coming up, or that just passed, I want to know how will Baltimore cops be policing paraphernalia laws? Because those have not been tweaked yet, but that is another way that they can criminalize marijuana. And also, if after 6 months to a year, it's shown that marijuana tickets are still being disproportionately given to blacks and whites, what actions will the police department take to rectify that?
So as far as policy goes, the written directive is falling. We've actually redid our policy on enforcing marijuana laws with the new marijuana under 10 grams policy, a law that is put in place. So the officer now issuing citations. They also have the option not to issue citations, but they do have to seize the contraband and then send to the court for to pay the fines. They're also being trained on how to do this. So we have a training video for the officers outlining how to enforce the law. And we do know the paraphernalia more than likely will be equalized visually. So we're not out to enforce the paraphernalia law. We're instructing officers from being good.
Thank you. Delegate Frank Conway has a question.
Well, it's not a question, but I really need to respond to the question that was asked. There's no way that the officers can tell exactly what you have, what the substance is, unless they take you in and take you to central booking and have the substance analyzed. If you have a plastic bag, you will be locked up. You will be facing a charge. I think the charge is a misdemeanor, but it's 2 years and I think $500. So just because you get this ticket for whatever the substances that you have, the container that it's in, that's going to get you in trouble. So don't believe that the paraphernalia is, nothing, because that is the smoking gun. That's the charge.
Thank you. And briefly, I want to acknowledge that we've been joined by Delegate Nathaniel Oaks, who you heard about earlier as a big champion of strengthening civilian review. And also, we've been joined in the audience by Delegate-elect Dave Lisi. Thank you very much for coming. And I think it really speaks volumes about these newly elected legislators that they've taken the time before even getting sworn in to come and hear from you. And also, Delegate-elect Corey McRae is over there on the left. Thank you very much.
How y'all doing? So I have a quick question, but I want to introduce myself. I'm Sarah. I'm here representing the Baltimore People's Power Assembly, also FIST Youth Group, Fighting Terrorism, Stand Together, and we're a youth activism group out for social justice. Right now, we're against the city curfew because we feel like it further gives cops more authority to kill our youth. And we actually support the Tyrone West family was there at the Solidarity Center when we was going off to Ferguson, and we feel that it's very important to have solidarity demonstrations like this because not only are people getting killed here in Baltimore, but people are getting killed worldwide by terrorists. And we have emergency press release tomorrow at 2 p.m. at McKelvin Square. And if the grand jury decision is announced tomorrow, also we'll have a protest same day, same place. My quick question is, why is it that these cops, somebody already asked this question, but who's going to teach these officers? Is it going to be somebody from the outside? Also, also, why is it that y'all have so many provisions on who can enter the police department, but there's no provisions on y'all? Y'all could come from anywhere. Y'all can kill people and still keep your job, but a black man in the city of Baltimore cannot provide for that child because of a plastic bag. But y'all can go out and kill a whole human being and still be able to provide for your child. And I have my 5-year-old daughter right here because I'm a single mother and I'm an advocate for this because we're tired of y'all killing our youth. We're tired. And also, this and People's Power Assembly, really quick, we have a campaign to introduce community control over the police, inspired by the 1971 Black Panthers Party. This is proposing Baltimore City Community Patrol Board, also cop watch and community patrols, indict killer cops, and stop racism. Thank you.
Sorry, what's the question?
Go ahead, sir. I have a question regarding the use of data, use of force data that y'all posted. Part of what we do is catalog or archive all the use of force incidents individually. We've come across numerous instances which y'all haven't reported on. That's first, I want to know the protocol on that and determine that. The other thing I want to know is regards to body cameras, whether or not you believe that, as Liz said over there, that officers in the special section and violent repeat officers should be the first to be out there with the body cameras, and how that, well, that's about it. And then mainly, right here is a letter that we wrote in April 11th, 2014, that we've been giving you on 6 different occasions regarding our public information request for data regarding police involvement since 2001, officers, misconduct, and all that. We'd love to have an answer at some point in the next year.
You can get a copy of the letter after you look at it.
There's a couple. I'm going to use this.
All right. I think your first question was about the numbers on the website. You're referring to the Force Investigation Team website?
Yes.
Okay. So that is not every use of force in the police department. That's only the ones we consider categorical use of force. And those are the ones that's actually police-involved shootings, in custody deaths, or case where a citizen was actually linked to the hospital. So that's the only case that we have posted from the website. So you're correct, those numbers are not the same as what you're seeing. The total, give me a second, I can hear, we have the total numbers for this year.
I know about this year, but I'm saying how we've been requesting for it. I know you guys are starting to put the information of like number of lawsuits and all that starting from now. We'd love to go see the pattern and the trend. At least in the last few years.
Yeah, and we're putting that all together, so I gave you my next stuff, we can talk about it offline. Okay.
Hello, my name is Christina Martin, and I am the principal for a campaign titled Accountability and Justice in Medical Abuse and Foster Care Corruption. I have a police report that indicates my daughter reported being assaulted and my 2 grandchildren with her were well. I have a CPS report that said those same children were well. I have a DSS report that said those children were not abused and neglected. 8 years later, I am still asking for my grandchildren.
I went to the department, to the police department, June 17th, a missing persons report was issued. I followed up, missing persons unit informed me that they don't investigate missing persons reports, that I should contact homicide. I contacted homicide, who said that that was incorrect. I needed to contact missing persons. 2 weeks later, my grandson was pronounced dead, either July 2nd or July 3rd, while in foster care. We know that there's 8 years of medical abuse. My granddaughter is still missing in the system. I'm saying at this point, what in the hell is going on here in Baltimore City?
We're not going to the case. So you want to give us the information, I can look into it, but I don't.
You can Google his name, Damard, D-A-M-A-U-D, Martin. Nobody dies twice, and nobody should be in a system for abused and neglected children when they were never abused and neglected.
Okay, if you like, once it's done, I put your information, I can look into it, but I don't have the information right now.
I will show you.
Thank you.
One minute. Doc Sheila, request. The three of the organizations serving on the Civilian Review Board are basically police related. Police Commissioner's Office, Vanguard, and FOB. I have a relationship with all three, past years and current years. We would like to meet with all three this week to discuss your support for our efforts to strengthen the Civilian Review Board. We do not want to see ourselves pitted against each other, the community against the police. So we like to have all three groups. We're asking the police department to call the meeting for us, but we want to sit down. We think you agree that we need to strengthen the review board. So we want to meet with y'all this week, FOP, Vanguard, Baltimore City Police Department, to be supportive of us strengthening our civilian review board. So that is a request. And you
Include me in that, Doc.
with our great delegate and our chair, Delegate Jill Carter, requesting a formal request for a meeting.
Yes, sir.
My name is Ray Kelly. I'm the president of the No Boundaries Coalition of Central West Baltimore. We're actually the 7 neighborhoods surrounding the Pennsylvania Main Street, Carter. So we've been doing a safety initiative this year. We've actually set up meetings. We've been working with the police department to try to find out what we can do to increase residents and police visibility in our corridor. So we've had visibility walks, we've had community gatherings, we've been bringing residential visibility. And here, 10 months after all this work, we get a meeting that says the funding is ended, there's no money to patrol Pennsylvania Avenue. So in essence of time, my question in the beginning of my campaign was, how do we obtain community support? And I'm beyond it. How do we convince all of these people that any of this stuff is for real if you won't invest in the basic thing, which is patrols on the streets? You have the data that says it works, you have resident visibility every day, you got organizations willing to work with you. Why is something that's working not being supported by the party?
Yeah, I'd like to work with you, sir, on the increased visibility. Data shows, statistics shows that when the community and police work together, you get a reduction in crime. Last night, and again tonight, we actually had young officers that came from the academy, they graduated several weeks ago. Before they get the right to go in a patrol car and actually work, they have to pay like a rite of passage. And they're deployed on the streets on foot. They were on foot last night. I was there 7 p.m. to 4 this morning. They'll be here again, up and down.
But as organizations, how can we get committed support, not just committed dialogue?
Sure. And if you can give me your contact information, I'd love to work with you on this project.
I actually believe I have a meeting with Commander Green on the 1st, so going in, we want everybody there to make it happen.
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Upshur. I'm a student at the University of Baltimore School of Law. I'm also a member of the University of Baltimore School of Law's Black Law Students Association. What I need from you gentlemen today is simply a list of reasons why we are so slow in implementing guidelines.
stated earlier today when I was speaking, the issue of body cameras have a lot of things we're looking at. One is the privacy, as I talked about earlier, when the officer should or should not have his body camera on. The funding for body cameras, Maryland Public Information Act. Some agencies are, we look at the media now, some agencies are having problems with fulfilling the MPI requests. So that's some of the things that we're looking at. There's two committees, there's a city, what the mayor's put in place to look at this project. Also, there's a state panel that's also looking at it. So there will be recommendations coming out in the near future to the mayor and to the state, so they can see the different recommendations from the panels.
I just wanted to make sure I'm clear, is privacy, when they should be on, costs, and the Maryland Public Information Act?
That's some of the issues, yes.
Which under that is, I'm sorry.
Sorry, say it again?
Which under that is, I'm sorry.
So you also have the storage issue, the video storage. You have the training issues you have to look at. You have the type of cameras you have to can use. So there's multiple type of cameras out there we have to look at. You have the type of cameras the officer can wear on top of their glasses on the head. You have the kind that can be on their chest. And you have the kind that can be on the mic. So we have to look at which ones are the best cameras as well. We don't want to have a situation where an incident happens and the camera doesn't capture it, or it's not, or it's faced in the wrong direction. We want the camera, we want things to be proper. We want to get one chance to get this right.
My name is Bill Good. The young lady already let me know I have 1 hour. Well, listen, first of all, I'm going to raise a couple questions and I'm going to make a couple statements. Just to show the comparison with what's happening in Ferguson and what's happening in Baltimore. What is the percentages of black officers that we have?
When the Nazis tried to kill Nikki, she hid in a pool of paint. When you try to murder a muralist that talks to God through her fingertips, the oil surrounds you like an artistic army. It dares you to test her survival. Her art was born to live.
When Hitler came into Vienna and annexed the city, the family had to disperse. And so as a result of that, my mother and my father went to France, thinking that they would be safe. And unfortunately, if you have followed history, you know very well that that was not the case. And my father was arrested and ultimately sent to death in Poland, one of the 6 millions that ultimately were killed. At that point, a gypsy, from what I hear, told my mom that she would have a child. My mom was 43, and here I am. Now, there's something mysterious about that, and I've always wondered about that, and what was my reason to be born. And as I get older and older, I'm beginning to see why that really was the fact. And so we were not able to come to America because America had quotas for Jews, and we're not allowed into this country. I don't know how many of you know about that. But it took a long time, and not only did you have to file for a number, but you had to have a sponsor, and you had to have visas. And so we did not get here until 1947, which was after the war. And when I got to America, I lived with my aunt and my grandmother and my cousin, all women, none of the men had survived. So I was encouraged as a child to become a teacher. I didn't really think about that because I was always making art, and it was just who I am and what I do and what I love. And fortunately, my mother was right. I went into the field, and I wanted desperately to be an American and get as far away from the old country and their old ways. And I pursued a career in New York, and I went through school. And when I finally got my degree, guess what? There were no art jobs. So I ended up marrying someone and moving to Baltimore, who was from Baltimore. And ironically enough, I started doing teaching on my own, private teaching, whatever, working through community colleges. So I made my way in the art field in spite of everything else. And then all of a sudden, a mural job came up, and I had never done a mural in my life, and I applied, and I got the job. And subsequently, I spent the next 20 years doing murals for Baltimore City, and then eventually ended up teaching mural painting, because that's what I was, a teacher. So in the interim, I had 2 children, and raised my children. And as I got older and older, I started thinking more about my past. Instead of pushing it away, I started thinking more and more about it. And so I thought, well, what was that really all about? And I must say, as I was doing murals, I was also running a little antique business on the side. I had to survive. And as I get older and older, I begin to realize the meaning of my past and my history, and how important your history really is, and where you came from, and who you are, and what you are a part of. And so I started delving more and more into that. And so what gives my life meaning? Well, I wrote 3 things specifically. And one was to validate my ancestors and the fact that they were killed. And the other was that I love to learn and I love to share learning. And the third is, of course, the future. And the future are my children and my grandchildren. And that there's a positive future. So that the past connects with the present. And as far as my own death is concerned, my death is simply, I thought about Ecclesiastics, and for everything there is a time, and for everything there is a purpose. And I am a vessel for that. So hopefully I have sown seeds that are positive, and the future will be seen in my children, my grandchildren, and the kids that I have taught. And I believe strongly in the future. And I believe in positive thinking, and I believe in creativity, and I only have 1 minute. So the hardest part of all of this is thinking about what I would have told myself at 21. And that was the toughest one, because I don't really think I would have done anything differently, except to say, appreciate your youth, which is trite, but it's true, and appreciate your health, and appreciate your energy, and enjoy the world. Thank you.
Everybody
name is Noel Russell. I'm from New Orleans. I've been a musician since 9 years old. So, man. I wrote down a lot of stuff that I have here. I've been in the art world for, like I said, a long time. I've seen a lot of things. You know, it doesn't seem like a long time. But I've had a lot of time to reflect upon people. I remember when I was real young, couldn't even walk. And my world was people's legs. Okay, that's what you are. You had these little, had this top that you would spin and it would make this sound. Big old, that was my world. I remember that. From that age up until now, it's cognizant of everything. And I studied people and always wanted to know why they did what they did to each other, you know. And I never got really a true answer for whatever. Money and stuff like that, fame for it, different things. But I wrote down things of what gives my life meaning.
For the community.
Family, true friendships, helping your children along their life.
Okay.
Knowing your help others through rough times. This is very important. Every one of us here on the face of this earth is not here for ourselves. We're here for each other. Okay, this is a school. You're living in a body, which is your house. It's like you go to the moon, you space. You know, you get out of the space and you die. When it's time to return this in, you're gone. We're spirits, you know, and we just work in everything. You know, we may think we own this house, we may think, well, this is my car, it's paid for. This house is paid for. Well, first of all, you got to keep paying taxes on it. Thank you. All right. Yeah, shoes that you got on. I've seen people with shoes with goodwill. Then you find out that the shoes belonged to a boy who was in an auto accident. He died. You couldn't take the shoes with him. You know, never see no Brinks truck going to the graveyard. You know, all your money will be right here. You don't even take, if you take nothing with you, you come here naked, you leave here naked. Okay? You can't even take your body and turn it to dust. It's fertilizer. Okay? I mean, you don't bury people in what you got. I guess they're trying to keep from thinking that they're mortal. So they put them in tombs now. You still turn to dust. Okay. So, family, knowing that you've helped others through, it's very rewarding. Every time you do something with somebody on the street, don't you feel good when you help this person? I mean, you really helped them. You know, they fell out, scraped their knee, you helped them get up, you helped them raise a helmet, and when it's finally over, you walk, you feel really good. That's what life's about, feeling good about helping each other. You know, period. That's why we're here. And God watching us too. Okay? Knowing you've lived with honor and integrity. You know, being true to yourself. That's what Jim say, John say, who's whatever, you know, they can't even live their own life. They're going to tell you how to live your life. You know, it's like a bank robber. He's been in penitentiary 15, 20 times. They're going to tell you how to rob a bank. Man, please. Staying the course. Staying the course with your beliefs, what you really believe in, knowing that you stay faithful to yourself. Okay, that you faith to our own self be true. Knowing that my living has not been in vain, hearing from friends from years past that says how much they appreciated having me in their lives. That's a very nice thing. For 20, 30 years, you meet somebody and say, man, you really helped me out 30 years ago, you really, you know, et cetera, et cetera. If my life would end today, I cannot ask for a better life. That's true. I have a wonderful wife. I think she's one of the most loving people that I've ever known. She's the friendliest. She'll help you out in anything. A wonderful mother, wonderful father, wonderful children. You know, I couldn't ask for anything more. Okay. How do you think about your own dying? Death is an experience by the living that is the sadness of it. The loved ones grieve for the departed, but all is not as it may seem. Change is inevitable. The caterpillar becomes a butterfly, an acorn, a mighty oak, the ugly duckling, a beautiful swan. Life is eternal. What is called death in reality is transition. I have no fear of death. It will come when it will come. Life is too short to constantly worry about the end of your time on earth. I live every day as though it may be the last, as it may be. We are only passing through. At any time, your time may be up. So I make the most of each day as it could be my last. And if it is, I can rest assured I've done my best. The time given to me, death has its time limit also. Revelations, King James, 2014. In death and hell are cast into the lake of fire. So I go forward in life giving what help I can to the world I've been placed in. With these things in mind, I wish you love, peace, and happiness. What would you say to my 20-year-old self? You have traveled far and long. You did what you could to uplift your fellow man. The road to home is long in suffering, short in time. You have always given your best, and that's all anyone can do. Your questions have always been, what do you need? How can I help you? I speak to you from the future. Persevere, be strong, trust in the Lord, keep the faith. Do all you can do to help those who cannot help themselves. Strive to keep your integrity, though it may seem hopeless, it is not. In the end, you will win.
So the first word is embarrass. And embarrass, if you go back to the meaning, means to perplex, to throw into doubt, and it actually comes from words that mean to block. And I can tell you that I was afraid of embarrassment from about the time I was 1 year old until 21. I lived on a farm until I was 5 years old. I lived on a farm my whole life until I moved to go to college. And from 1 to 5, it was just me, my mom, my dad, and my sisters and brother. So by the time I got to school, I put my foot in my mouth before I walked through the door because I knew it would get there eventually. I was such just a bad kid. I didn't know what any boundaries were in terms of telling people what I thought. By the time I was 12, I was almost this height. That's the year that I call the year of every knee was skinned every day, because I fell down all the time. I didn't know where my feet were. I was just the most awkward child. I hated my body. Boys didn't like me because I was too big. I was too tall. I had no breasts. I had no butt. I had nothing. So I tried to be perfect, much like Joe. And I went to college and I tried to be so very proper, to the point that when I went to a jazz club and heard, I was actually had a boyfriend who was a jazz musician. When I went to a jazz club and everybody was like doing this, you know, like they're sitting there going like this, I thought, I will never, ever do that. I will never embarrass myself by doing that with my head, you know? And so if I had to talk to my 21-year-old self, I would say, don't be so afraid of being embarrassed, because being embarrassed makes you humble, and it unites you with other people, and it gives you such joy to be embarrassed. I first posed for a nude photograph when I was 19. I'm so happy I have that photograph because it gives me such joy to see my young self. So that's 21. What gives my life meaning is the second word, which is intimacy. And intimacy from the 1600s on has always meant sex. And I will say that has given my life meaning. But I'm not going to talk about that. I am going to talk about that moment when you really come close to another human being and you know them from, you know, soul to soul. I'm a professional persuader. I am now working in advocacy, but I've been a fundraiser my whole life, a communicator, and I really love that moment when you convince somebody that they want to do what you want to do, and that they really want to take that step with you, and they really want to go the next mile. Sometimes it's cooking together. I spent today with some friends cooking all day, and it was just glorious. We were so close to one another. Sometimes it's listening to music, sometimes it's being immersed in a piece of art. But it's also that there's magic in it. There's a photo in my slide series where it's at the end of a trip that Don and I took to Morocco. And we took camels out into the desert for 2 hours. We get out there and there are these 2 Tuareg boys who were 20 years old who had led us out there. They put the tents up, we slept in the cold, they didn't speak any English at all. They fed us food over a little fire, and then they wanted to entertain us. So the first thing they did was they took rope and they tied our hands together. And they tied us up and they said, okay, this is you could tell, it's a puzzle, try and get out. So Don and I are kind of freaked out, right? So we're 2 hours out in the Sahara Desert, tied up in a little tent with 2 guys, right? But we figured it out. We figured out how to get out. And then they played music for us they put over a tub and then they used it as a drum and they sang to us. And it was beautiful. And it was very intimate. Then we had to do our bit and we had to sing. So I sang, I'm a little teapot. I'm a little teapot. In a little tent. And I'm telling you, I was embarrassed. But they loved us after I'm a little teapot. The second story about intimacy I'm going to tell you is when I first took Don home to meet my parents. And my mother was dying and my father was taking care of her. And they had no time to really get to know the man that I was going to marry. So we were playing baseball and hanging out with the nephews and everything else, and when Don's really relaxed and happy, he leans over and he kisses me on the shoulder. And it was summer, and we were, I didn't think my parents were paying attention at all. And when at the end of the weekend, I said to my father, do you think it's going to be all right? How do you feel about Don? And he leaned over and kissed me on my shoulder. I'm going to cry that way. So I know I'm about to the end of my time. So I want to transition to how I feel about my own death. And the third word that I want to bring to you all is powerlessness. And it relates to my portrait in a sense, because we really don't have a lot of power over how we age. And the only power we have is bringing it back and being honest with ourselves about what we can and cannot do. We can exercise, we can eat right, we can do anything we want, and still, I'm going to tell all you young people, you're going to end up lumpy and big. Whether you like it or not. And you might as well embrace the embarrassment and think about how the powerlessness that you have over your own death and your own body and the way you age. But I'm going to end on a slightly political note, which is that I've now held my parents' hands and several friends' hands through the ends of their life. And I believe that we have to die better in this country. And I want everybody to know that if there's one thing this project has made me think, is that I'm going to commit more of my time to the Right to Die movement. And thank you.
Because secrets kill. Addiction is a warm Saturday night of blues. Dipping a heroin into heroin. Music is a high that Carry On never came down from. It has been 7 years without a hit. She never quit. She always hits a high note. She asked the clouds to pay her rent.
Good evening, everyone, family and friends. The 3 questions we have, we'll try to answer quickly so I can give you a little something else to listen to. What gives my life meaning? Sound, visual arts, the gift of song. If I wake up every day and one of those were missing from my life, there would be no reason to stay here. And
What I would tell my 21-year-old self is do not be afraid to leave town, this town, and follow your dreams. And what I think about death is that nothing. I think that I've come through a lot of trials and tribulations. I've made a lot of bad decisions in life. Addiction was the worst. Like she said, I have 7 years clean, and I'm 61 years old. Also, I would tell my 21-year-old self that use your own heart to pursue your passion, which is music. And God has given me the gift of song. And I share it with everyone. It's my life. That's what I do. So, on that note, am I changing my life and being a better person today, clean, sober, serene? I say to you all, look at me, look at me. I am changing, trying every way I can. I am changing, and I'll be better than I am. I'm hoping to sort it out, and I know that I can, but I need you. I need a hand. All of my life I've been a fool who said I could do it all alone. How many good friends have I already lost? And how many dark nights have I known? Walking down that wrong road, there was nothing I could find. All the years of darkness could make a person blind, but now I can see I am changing. I'm getting my life together now. I am changing. Oh yes, I know how. I'm gonna start again, and I'm gonna leave my past behind. I've changed my life, and I made a vow. Nothing's gonna stop me.
Picture perfect by the everyday of our lives. Just imagine everything we wanted came true. Never happened to me, so when it happened to you, we're on a journey of truth, and belief is the key. So open up your heart and let your life free.
Oh, and I feel like I'm glowing, and I like where I'm going. Tonight, I'm sure enough to shine. This light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
word. The word is whoa. Whoa. Thank you for Unchained Talent for this amazing performance, and everything is just gorgeous. They are the future generation. They're the reason why we're here for. And they have a little table outside if you guys want to learn more and support. You can go out and talk to them. Thank you, Leaves, for your stories, for being vulnerable, for your advices. We're all going to take it. We took it in. We're taking it with us for a long, long time. Don't forget your little comments. I'm sure you may need a couple, 2 or 3 or 4 of those things now. And I wanted to acknowledge the artist, so she couldn't be here today. She's taking care of her mom in Florida, but she was the one who did the beautiful drawings that you saw on the slides, and they're in the front too. And also want to acknowledge amazing Faya Angelo. Do you want to come here, Faya?
If I could say something to my 21-year-old self, talk to your elders, because this entire project has showed me the information that I was losing. And there's a saying, like, if an elder dies, the library was burned. And I really believe that to be true after speaking to the wonderful people behind me. There was so much insight and love and things I've learned from them. So 21-year-old self, talk to your elders.
So one thing that you guys need to know is that after we're done here, we're going to hang out, play, party a little bit, and then at 7 o'clock we're going to gather, and Peter's going to come up and talk a little bit about a future event that he's planning. We want to thank you all for coming, for being here, and I want you guys to take a second and just look around. See if you can meet eyes that you've never met before. And just notice and realize that behind those eyes, there are stories, just like 7 stories, just like the 49 stories that we just heard. Each of you, each of us, we are leaves. We all are this big tree, the tree of life, and we're part of it. So just like Faya was saying, bringing the gift of curiosity, ask questions, connect with the elders. It's a lot of wisdom. And I'm going to call the wisdom man, the leaf. Peter, please join us here. We're honored that you're here, Peter. Thank you for your vision. Yeah, and we're all in the same roof today together because of you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Lola. Thank you, Thibaut. I think this is the final event of 7 events, and I'm going to kind of wrap a little bit of recognizing this evening with recognizing the entire span of the project. And I want to start by recognizing a group that I actually had not really acknowledged very much because they've been so posterly. And I want to begin by saying thank you to Thibaut and Lola. I asked them to do 2 things for this project. I asked them to raise money, and I asked them to take care of other people. And they did both, and got very little glory and recognition. So I just want to recognize Thibaut and Lola, but I also want to recognize the other hosts from the other events who were asked the same thing. And I'm actually going to invite them to come on back for a second. And come on, if you hosted, I know we got a few hosts here. Anyone else, any other hosts here? I don't think so. Thank you very much. If you guys don't mind hanging out here, okay, just feeling like, keep me company up here, okay? I also want to do a shout out to Faya Angelou. I want to say a little bit about her. Not only is she a brilliant spoken word artist, and by the way, I'm not sure you all realize, but every single one of those things that she recited was exactly 49 words long. That was her charge, to come up with 49 word pieces, and she did it. And she is a real role model. She teaches poetry in middle school, high school, and churches, spoken word and writing. And she's also the director of an upcoming youth spoken word thing. I'm spaced the name, I got it right here. Louder Than a Bomb Poetry Festival coming up. And if you think she could do something with 49 words, just wait till you hear one of her full-blown pieces. And she's doing all of this from the heart. She's doing this all from the heart, and is trying to come out of the shadow, trying to get her career to come out of the shadow and get some illumination. So if you're interested in talking with Faya Angelou, aka Nakia Brown, she's going to be hanging out by the labels of the Sycamore drawings in the other room after this. So if you seek her out, come on up. And she is one of 7 writers who also, in all their own way, were brilliant. I'm not sure, I think there's at least one other writer here. And come on down if you're a writer for this project. There we are. Yep. Jenny's writer for the Oak Leaves. So we couldn't have done this without them. Lola mentioned Zoe, who's the artist for the Sycamore group. And Zoe's actually in Florida taking care of her mother, who is dying of cancer and is entering hospice. And Zoe and I have talked about this over the course of the event. And this event has been really, this Autumn Leaves thing has been really meaningful for her as well. And it's just one of those things that life happens while this happens, and this reflects life. Zoe, she bled for those drawings. She was up and down to Florida throughout working on those drawings. And she is one of 7 artists who did that. I know there are other artists who are here. I believe there are. Are there any other visual artists here? I think I see some movement. Come on down. Who did the abstract drawings in the other room. So they also... So we got the hosts, we got the writers, we got the artists. I'll get to you guys in a bit. We also have the youth art groups. And you heard about Unchained Talent, and you've seen the youth. Well, I want to give a shout out to a couple of staff members from Unchained Talent. Kayinta Boyd, Kayinta, if you don't mind standing. Now, forgive me if I mess this up a little bit. Thank you. But in middle school and through school, Drama Club basically gave her a refuge in life and saved her life in many ways. And now she's the executive director of Unchained Talent, working with young people, often in difficult, not always, but often in difficult family situations, and is providing that same shelter that she got. And not only that, but Unchained Talent is called Unchained Talent because that's exactly what it is Unchained Talent. And the program director, Megan, could you just stand for a second? Megan. I'm sure many of you are like, well, I won't talk about pay, but I will say that Unchained Talent, like every youth art group that was featured in the events here, they are underpaid and underknown and doing overwhelming work, beautiful work. Are there other youth art group folks here, any at all, that are from this? I know I had Sarah Tooley was here earlier. I don't know if she's still here. Here she comes, Sarah Tooley from 901 Arts. Okay, so next thing I want to say is that none of this was possible without money and funding. And this is a community project, no question about it. I'm going to ask anybody who gave $1 or more to this project via either the crowdfunding campaign or through grant writing or something like that, or a big fat check. Anybody who did that, now a lot of people are standing in back, but I'm going to ask those of you who contribute to this project financially to just stand for a moment. I know there's a lot of folks. There is one particular person I want to mention, and Christy, if you don't mind, I'm just going to ask you to stand, okay? And if you want to come here, you can, but I'm just going to ask you to stand. Christy is Seska Ramberg's sister. Seska was one of the first people I asked to be a Leaf. First she said yes, then she said, no, I don't think I'll still be alive then. She was right. And she died exactly 49 days before this show went up, to the day. Seska also was responsible through both her family foundation and through a personal gift of being far and away the most generous financial sponsor of this project. And Seska is loving being here. And Seska would love to be here. So Christy, on behalf of, I guess, me, thank you. Okay, now I get to embarrass Sarah again. Sarah Edelsberg, can you come up here? Sarah is behind the scenes, running around doing everything. And so we're going to acknowledge Sarah, and we're going to do it really loudly, and we're going to give her a huge round of applause to give these flowers. Come on.
We are really actually the most fortunate ones because we got a chance to know every single person involved in this project from all the groups and all of their friends and families and supporters, and it's just been really incredible. So I wanted to thank everyone involved for taking the time to get to know me, and also a huge thank you to all of our volunteers who have worked really hard to make these events run smoothly, including the ones that are working tonight and all the other events. And also just a really special thank you to Peter, because for a long time I dreamed of being a part of a project like this, and here it is. So it's a delight to know all of you, so thank you so much for being here.
So I want to say that in about a month, all 49 of the sharings from the 49 leaves will be on the Autumn Leaves website. And so you'll be able to click that, play it, see the portrait, read the 49 words, and hear them speak. So that's going to be what we've experienced. It's not the same thing as being in the room, will be archived and accessible. And if you indeed left me your email address when you signed in, you will be notified about how to contact them. And speaking of all 49 shares, there are a lot of leaves here. I'd like all the leaves to come on up, please. Come up front, come up front. Wow. So the best thing about all these leaves being here, wow, there's so many of you. It's like there's no one left in the audience. The best thing about all these leaves being here is they all get to keep their portraits. And so they get to pull them off the walls and take them home with them. So what I want to say to these guys, I'm not sure who I should look at. Yeah. What I want to say to these guys is that throughout this Autumn Leaves experience, it's been a village experience. It's been a project where everyone deserves a voice in the choir. It's a project about what's come before us, where we are now, and what lies ahead for us. And with that in mind, I'm going to make one more dedication. I've made this dedication at every event, and that's who Autumn Leaves as a project is dedicated to. Sarah, are you posted down there by the, you are, excellent. All right, so let's see if we can see through the, okay, so here we have, you don't have to part, I think we can see it. These are my 3 daughters. 2 of them are still with us, and one of them, Elisif, is not. When Elisif died on February 11th of a heroin overdose, something I will speak more of when I announce my next project at 7 o'clock, if you can stick around that long. I did not think I could continue with Autumn Leaves. Now, standing here, I know that Autumn Leaves carried me through from pain to healing. And I'm grateful to each and every one of you who's been a part of this. Okay, so this has been a beautiful healing thing for me and for all of us. I mean, not all of us, I can't speak for all of you. I know it's been a healing thing for some people involved. And I like to think that as we all move forward, you know, this has really been about our generation, this group right here. And it's also been about the next generation. And as we move forward, after today, it's like, oh, it's the last event. But guess what? Each and every one of us can carry the spirit of Autumn Leaves with us every day in every community, be it an elevator full of people, our work, a restaurant, the mall. We can carry this spirit wherever we are. And that can make the world a nicer place, I think. So what's going to happen now is there's going to be a new rollout of food just to kind of entice you to stick around. And we're even, I will admit, breaking out the wine. So make sure you're 21 years old or older. And that next generation that's coming up, the Spring Leaves, just don't drink too much wine. And thank you, and let's have some music, and let's have some food.